Have you seen this whole thing blowing up online? It's wild.
Yeah, what's going on?
So it's this crazy back and forth between the singer Timmy DeColo and Pastor Femi Lazarus.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
It's really intense, and it all boils down to this question of whether gospel musicians should be charging fees to perform in churches.
Right, right. I did see a little bit about that on Nigerian X.
Yeah, it's been trending, and it's super interesting. So we're going to do a deep dive into all of this today.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm interested to learn more.
So Pastor Lazarus, he came out pretty strongly against what he sees as some gospel musicians asking for way too much money to perform.
Okay, so what kind of numbers are we talking about?
Well, there's this alleged invoice floating around. I'm not sure if it's real, but wow, an honorarium of $10,000.
Wow, hold on. $10,000 to perform at a church.
Yeah, you heard that right.
Uh-huh.
Get this, a 40-person entourage that all needs travel and accommodation paid for.
That's a huge entourage.
Right. It's more like what you'd expect for a secular concert, like a big stadium tour, not a church service.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, so what's Pastor Lazarus's take on all of this?
Well, he seems to be concerned that this focus on money is pulling away from the true purpose of gospel music.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Gospel music is supposed to be about ministry and worship, not about making a profit.
Exactly. And he's basically saying that these huge demands are turning something spiritual into a business transaction.
Okay, I see his point there, but do we know if this invoice is even real?
Well, that's what's so interesting. Timmy DeColo jumped right into this whole thing and denied that the invoice was real.
Oh, really? What did he say?
Basically, he challenged Pastor Lazarus to name the artist who supposedly sent that invoice.
So he's calling him out, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. And DeColo's argument is that gospel musicians have a lot of expenses,
Like, what kind of expenses are we talking?
Think about it. Studio time in Nigeria, production costs, promoting their music, all that adds up.
Right. I never really thought about it like that before.
And DeColo is saying they deserve to be paid fairly for their work, just like anyone else.
It's like the whole debate about artists working for exposure, but in a religious context.
Exactly. And it gets even more complicated because DeColo pointed out something really interesting.
Okay, what's that?
He said that Pastor Lazarus actually charges fees for his ministry school.
Oh, wow. So that's a little hypocritical, don't you think?
Right. It brings up this question of where do we draw the line between serving God and getting paid for work that's related to faith?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it's really all about ministry or if there's some business mixed in there too.
And the accusations of hypocrisy are flying around, which you can imagine has made this whole thing even more heated.
Yeah, I bet. So what else has DeColo been saying?
Well, he also brought up this point about double standards, which I think a lot of people are relating.
Show double standards. How's...
So he talked about how international gospel artists often get the VIP treatment.
Yeah, like they get flown in first class, stay in fancy hotels, all that.
Exactly. And they get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
But local Nigerian gospel artists don't always get treated the same way.
That's a really good point. I mean, it kind of devalues the contributions of local artists, doesn't it?
Right. And DeColo is highlighting that disparity and asking, why are we valuing foreign artists more than our own?
Wow, this is getting pretty deep. It's not just about money anymore, is it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It touches on cultural values and the perception of art and how we treat artists within the church.
And all of this is playing out very publicly on social media, right?
Yeah, it's blown up on Nigerian X.
Yeah.
People are sharing their opinions, debating the issues. It's really become a huge conversation.
So what are some of the key takeaways from all of this?
Well, the main tension here seems to be between the idea that ministry should be about selfless service and the fact that gospel musicians are professionals who deserve to be paid for their work.
Right. It's that age-old question of can you serve God and earn a living at the same time?
And as we've seen, the accusations of hypocrisy and the double standards around how local versus international artists are treated have really fueled this debate.
Absolutely. It forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions about the intersection of faith, art, and commerce within the Nigerian church.
So ultimately what it boils down to is this.
Yeah.
How should financial considerations be handled within spiritual ministry, especially when it comes to gospel music?
It's a tough question with no easy answers because we have to think about the costs involved in creating and performing music.
Right, those studio fees, travel expenses, equipment, all of that.
And then we have to balance that with the spiritual value of the music and the potential for both genuine ministry and commercialization.
It's a complex issue that really makes you think.
Definitely. And it's a conversation that's worth having so we can figure out how to navigate these issues in a way that respects both the artists and the religious community.
Well said. I think that's a great place to leave it for today.
I agree. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.